Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, school choice by the numbers. Also, there's a new player in the U.S. Senate race. And where was Tommy Tuberville during a crucial Senate vote?
What an incredible Cinderella story. This unknown comes out of nowhere to lead the pack at Augusta.
He was watching golf at the Masters. It's a Cinderella story. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR. Welcome.
Morning, guys.
Hey, y'all.
Josh, you have been doing a deep dive into the goings-on in the Limestone County Republican Party, and also with the Algop chair, John Wahl. It appears from your reporting that the Alabama party chair, John Wahl, and his brother, Noah, who runs the party up in Limestone County, have been accused by party members of things that, if true, could land them in hot water with the Ethics Commission, could land them in hot water with the party, certainly. Mm-hmm. And they look to skirt some things, if true, that are the same things that Mike Hubbard did. But again, you've reported this, you've reached out to them numerous times, and they're ducking you. Let's just put it honest. The Wahl brothers do not want to call because they are in the hot seat, not because of what you did or you reported, but because of what their own party is saying. Give us a breakdown, Josh.
Yeah, there are a lot of party members from up here, the Limestone County Republican Executive Committee members met with them back in January. And this has been after a series of things have happened within the party. There have been a lot of arguments back and forth. There have been a lot of really contentious meetings that had taken place. And a couple where physical violence was at least threatened in a couple of times. And so there was some real anger taking place. And so they got together for this meeting that was recorded. Everybody at the meeting knew that it was going to be recorded. And they stated at a couple of different points in there that they were going to forward this recording and some documents and things on to the Secretary of State's office and some other people to determine whether or not what was taking place there was a conflict of interest. And an issue is this consulting company, one of the issues. They also had some problems with party financials not being as transparent as they would like them to be. But the main issue that they were discussing was this consulting company that is run by the Wahl family. It's WT&S Consulting, which is an offshoot of a supply store that they run called Wise Men Trading and Supply. And then they just kind of spun WT&S Consulting out to do political consulting. And that consulting company being involved in a number of local primaries. There was a handful of them that were named, and those folks in the party did not believe it was fair. They did not believe that they were following the bylaws, and they did not think that it was something that ought to exist within the party. They felt like they were essentially putting their thumb on the scale to help certain people within primaries, and they felt like the state bylaws governed this and said that's a no-no for party leadership to get involved in primaries where one Republican is facing another Republican. They felt like the chairman of the local Republican committee should not be running a consulting firm that helps one of those candidates, and certainly the chairman of Algop should not be doing that as well. Now, John Wahl claims he has divested himself completely of this company. And Noah this recording, we obtained a copy of the recording of this meeting, and so that's where a lot of the information came from, was from this, and then from there you just kind of follow the breadcrumbs back to the filings that are there on record with the Secretary of State's office and see exactly what they're talking about, and it's pretty obvious that they were in fact involved in these races, and that candidates were paying their consulting companies several thousands of dollars.
So just to be clear, Wahl said he recused himself from this operation, Susan, but you went through his statement of economic interest, and what he said out loud is not what he put on the form.
Yes, what he put on the form is that he was receiving money from WT&S, and also, to my surprise, from Algop.
Yeah.
Because as of 2021, he was not receiving anything, but apparently he has since started receiving money from Algop as well.
And he said it was between 50 and 100.
Right. It's very vague on a statement of economic interest. It's very vague as to how much it actually is, because it could be, 50,000 to 100,000. So you don't know where it is in that.
Now, Josh,
it could be, 51,000.
So his name is on the website. His email address is on the website, and it's in his statement of economic interest. Now, I guess he could say that he doesn't have anything to do with the consulting company, but why is his name on it? Why is his email on it? And then he could say, "Oh, well, we're working for the supply. I'm working for the supply company." Is that some way he could try to get out of it?
Well, and honestly, that may be true, because one thing you'll find when you go through a lot of this stuff is that that those names are often interchanged, both on the statement of economic interest, where it's WT and S all spelled out, and in the campaign finance reports, you'll see WT&S Consulting listed from the campaigns when they're paying them for the consulting work, and you'll also find Wiseman Trading referenced by campaigns when they're paying them for the consulting work. So a lot of these things are interchangeable, and it's kind of hard to tell at times what's what. He may actually, I wish he would have called me back or answered the questions that I sent to him, because I think some of this could have been answered at that point, and we could have got some clarity at least on his stake in this. For the Wahl, I'll say the other thing is in the recording during the meeting, they don't deny that their consulting company is involved in these races, and they say that is not a conflict in terms of the bylaws for which they are governed by, and that other county chairmen also have consulting businesses in the state.
But Susan, and I'm not sure I understand this all completely, but so are they using? Maybe I asked Josh.
Yes, that's
Are they
Josh, 'cause I'm
using
gonna ask.
party money they give party money to these candidates, and then these candidates hire the consulting? The consulting.
There has been some of that. There was a notable one with Ben Harrison, who's a state representative, and at times the local Republican Party in Limestone County had given his campaign donations, and he has also used WT&S Consulting. I don't think it's a one-for-one kind of switch on that thing, and so you'd have to see where the money kind of commingled or whatever, if it did. But yeah, there has been a little bit of that, but mainly, the complaint here from people has been that we're talking about the chairman of the party and the chairman's brother, who is the chairman of the local Limestone County delegation. They're running a consulting company, and they're helping certain candidates in these local races. I mean, we're talking about circuit court clerk and county commission and things like that. Well, then that can wield a lot of influence in where people are going to cast their votes locally.
One last question: have you heard from any candidates that felt any pressure to use WT&S? Or felt persuaded that it's kind of what they needed to do?
No, I tried to reach out to several of them. The one person, Kelly Davis, who's mentioned in the story, I did speak with her. She said that her goal was simply to use somebody local that knew the local folks, and that she just wanted to give herself the best chance to win. There's no blame to the candidates on this. I mean, of course, if you're going to pick the person that gives you the best chance to win, it's the local.
It is going to be the local chair and the chair of the party. But we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics.
home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Jacob Holmes over at APR, one of our great reporters over there, broke a story on how Representative Corey Harbison had been taking his government salary and not showing up to the legislature. He showed up a handful of days in 2023, Susan, a handful of days in 2024, and no days in 2025. Yet he was bringing in $60,000 salary. The days he was there, at least he claimed to be there, he was taking per diem, what is it, $300 a day. He was declaring that. All the while, just not showing up for work. I mean, I don't know what kind of job you have where the taxpayers pay you to do a job and then you don't show up.
It's ridiculous. And one of the more disturbing things to me was it is a rule in the House that somebody else can vote your machine. Now, granted, if you need to go take a potty break and somebody votes your machine because it's coming up and you don't know how long it's going to take, that's one thing. But they were voting his machine present when he wasn't there.
Yeah.
I mean, that bothers me a lot. And the fact that he was, of course, taking taxpayer money and not showing up at all and just kind of, being flippant about it.
I mean, Josh, he said, and this is legitimate, that he had 2 children right in a row. He had one by his in vitro fertilization, and then his wife became pregnant naturally. But he said that they, at the time, had health problems, but since are much better. But he could not drive to Montgomery and do his job. And so the House members voted his machine. And this is a problem, because if you're declaring somebody present day after day after day after day when they're not there, that's kind of lying to the public and lying to their constituents.
Yeah. I mean, it's all of that, man. Look, I don't want him to be put in a bad spot. I can appreciate that he has a family that he wants to take care of, and that's good for him. But in 2023, this came up, and he had to start missing some days. And okay, I can give him 2023 and say, hey, this was a surprise. We had to, we had these health issues. We needed to work this out. Even into 2024 a little bit, you can say, all right, look, we thought it was going to be different. It wasn't. I couldn't make the things work or whatever. But at some point, man, you got to go. If you're not going to show up, you've got to resign and stop taking the money. And also, there's another key point here. The people of that district are not receiving representation there.
No.
All right. I don't know. I don't know if Corey Harbison introduced any bills during that time or not. I find it hard to believe that he did, since he wasn't even there. So what representation are they having there? Why not just resign if you're not going to go, and allow someone else to go into that seat that's going to represent the district?
I think he had 60,000 reasons not to resign. But Susan, he promised the Speaker of the House, we understand, that he would resign on April 1st. Then he came back and said April 15th. April 15th passed. This story broke on April 16th, and he resigned that day.
He resigned that day, a one-sentence resignation, which he should have resigned back when he realized that this was going to be a problem. You know, when he realized that, okay, you know, we've got new babies. All right, there's a time of adjustment, like Josh said. There's a time of adjustment. Everybody can understand that. But when you realize that this is not going to work out and you're not going to be able to go to Montgomery from Coleman, then you need to step back and let somebody else represent the people. Let somebody else get paid for actually doing the job.
Yep. Well, and he allegedly, according to sources that we have, wanted to hang on till after the deadline had passed for a special election.
I believe it's August, sometime in August.
He didn't want the candidate that some people were backing to get his seat, as if he owned the seat.
Yeah, and also he and Gudger have a bit of a problem there, allegedly.
I want to move on to this next one, which I call, you know, public funds to fuel private gain. And Josh, we beat this horse to death, but we've got in some numbers now on the Choose Act, the $7,000 that go to families who qualify in 2000 for private schools, and 2002 people who want to do homeschool. And Josh, the numbers are very telling that this doesn't appear to help the kids in failing schools. It seems to help the people that are already in private schools. And in fact, that is the majority of the students who are already in private school or in homeschool already.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even with the caps that we currently have in place, somewhere around 70% are people or kids who have never been to public school. I mean, it's just, that's just what's going to happen because the money's not enough to pay for the tuition. Okay. And even if you could pay the full amount of the tuition, you're still not paying for the transportation and the lunches and the books fees and the travel fees and all the other expenses that go along with private education at these schools that more wealthy families are paying. This is a $7,000 handout to wealthy people. And I don't understand why we're doing this.
And Susan, the other thing that caught me, and Chance Phillips did this report over at APR, the thing that caught me off was that 10 counties in Alabama, 10 out of the 67 counties, does not even have a private school to go to.
Right. They don't even have it available.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about 37,000 applicants. This is not a small number, people. I mean, that multiplies out pretty quick. But, you know, we're not really helping what they said. That we're not helping the children that are most in need. This is a gimme.
I've heard this line so many times. They shouldn't be restricted by their zip code. Guess what? They're restricted by zip code and by how much money they have. But we knew all along that this was not about school choice. This is about private companies, private schools getting their hands on public dollars.
Yeah.
This has been a plan by the conservatives for the last 45
started
50
with
years.
Charter schools years ago.
I mean, but again, here we have an example of the real numbers showing that this is not going to help people in failing schools. It's going to help people that already go into private schools, and a handful, like around 10 or 15%, actually were in public schools that transferred over.
Right.
But we're gonna have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Well, Susan, it looks like Senator Tommy Tuberville has drawn an opponent, a relatively unknown, lifelong Alabamian. He also is a lifelong Republican, and he spoke at the Democratic Convention after voting for current President Donald Trump in 16 and in 20.
At 20.
And he said he'd been disappointed that the Trump administration had not, as promised, taken care of the working men and women of America. Now he is running for the U.S. Senate. He's a good-looking guy. He's real Alabama, and he came out of the box with a video. I encourage anybody to go Google his name. It's SWEETS.
Kyle Sweetser.
Kyle Sweetser. Look at that video on YouTube. It's really good. And he comes out swinging against Tommy Tuberville.
He really does. He really does. He starts off with, I don't mind getting my hands dirty. I don't mind doing work, which really appeals to Alabamians of all ilks. But then he moves into, Tuberville doesn't live in the state. Tuberville made promises to veterans with his salary that, he was going to give his salary to the veterans, and he never did. And many other things like that are really, really strong points.
Yeah. Now, Josh, people are making out on some of these publications that like to, maybe stretch it a little bit. I don't think he's running as a Democrat. I
can't find any
I
evidence
can't find
of it.
where he's running as a Democrat, but he's running, and the guy's got a pretty compelling message.
Yeah. The Democrats would be lucky to have him.
Yeah.
If they could get him. And so. Yeah, listen, if the Democrats could get him, this is the kind of message that would resonate, I think, with a lot of people. And it's the kind of candidate that I think the Democratic Party ought to be focusing on. Not necessarily a white guy, but a guy, a real working class person in this state that kind of resonates with the folks who live and work in this state, unlike the current representation. And so, I think that he has a real message there that I think people are going to start to pay attention to a lot more, especially given the current climate of the first 3 months of the Trump administration. I think that these things are going to start to hit home a little harder now.
Yeah, and I think there's a real interesting to me, and you've reported this, Josh, and we've talked about it, that Tuberville during the 2019 special Senate election period, he promised over and over that he was going to give his salary to veterans. He has a veterans organization, and he has not given a dime to veterans.
No.
The only thing we can see for sure that he's done, Susan, is give himself a truck.
He bought himself a $90,000 truck out of that.
Yeah.
He absolutely did.
Out of money he raised for veterans.
For veterans. He didn't send it to veterans. He sent it to himself.
Yeah.
I have to say back on this Switzer thing, the one thing that I do like is you can't tell. He doesn't say if he's a Democrat or Republican, and you can't tell. He's just average, everyday, working Alabamian.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because, Tommy Tuberville really got elected because his name is Tommy Tuberville, and he's coached
coach.
Auburn.
He's coach.
People would remember that he is, and now he's thinking about running for governor, and people are telling me that he doesn't care about his residency. He can get through all that, and he doesn't care about what people say because people just love him. So and he can win, Josh. Just
take a look at
people
TikTok.
love him.
Yeah, I think he might be overestimating that a bit. I just honestly, this is the sort of person, I think when you juxtapose the two people, that's where a lot of voters are going to start to recognize who Tommy Tuberville is in this thing. And you're right, he got there on name recognition, but he also got there into that seat because of the issues with Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump at that time.
Yeah.
And so he had the president of the United States at that point lobbing bombs into the other guy's camp, and it really helped him out.
Yeah.
And so, that's not going to be the case this time. He's going to face a guy like Sweetser. He's going to, if he wants to run for governor, he's going to face somebody else, and Will Ainsworth and some people that you're not going to be able to just sit back and go to barbecue joints, on Saturdays and that's going to be your campaign. You're going to have to actually work to do this, and I don't know that he wants to.
Well, I've talked to people who said he doesn't like the campaign. Well, guess what? That's a big part of the job. But I want to talk about this next thing. So he doesn't like the campaign. It seems like he doesn't like to vote either, because
Like do his job.
last week the Senate was confirming the new Joint Chief of Staff, Dan Kane. And this is the guy that would have the authority to implement the coming of Space Command to Alabama. He will have some say in that. He will have some say in that. But Tommy Tuberville was absent for the series of votes on the new Joint Chief.
He was. Reminds me a little of Corey Harbison, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was at the Masters.
He was
The
watching
Masters.
golf,
He
Josh.
was watching golf while, we're down here wanting Space Command to come down here to benefit Alabama. Of course, he does live in Florida. I understand that. But yeah, he was at the Masters and for that critical vote.
Richard Shelby secured the first time that Space Command was coming here, and Tuberville tried to take credit for that. Josh, if you can't even show up to vote for the Joint Chief guy, and there was some of them that didn't, but to go to the Masters, like you're a celebrity or something.
Yeah, listen, I get it. I love the Masters. It's a nice place over in Augusta. I get wanting to go. I might could have understood it a little better if he was getting to play. But I mean, it's to just go and hang out on a Thursday, or a Friday is, come on, man, you got to do your job at some point here. And that was you're right. It was a pretty important vote that he missed to go and hang out over there. It just, again, it's not a person who's taking this seriously.
No,
okay.
no.
He's not taking this seriously, and he never has.
No, because he wants to be relevant.
Those were his words.
He wants to remain relevant.
Those were his words. When he was deciding to run for senator, he wanted to remain relevant.
Richard Shelby was more relevant than Tommy Tuberville will ever be. And
No
Richard
doubt.
Shelby always showed up. Katie Britt is showing up.
She was there to vote.
She was there to vote. But he couldn't be bothered because he wanted to go watch some golf. Now, he could have just gone back to his nice apartment up there, condo, and watched Caddyshack, which would have been just as entertaining to me. But anyway, we'll leave it right there. Remember, you can always watch us on YouTube, The Voice of Alabama Politics, or at alreporter.com. Before we go, I want to remind everybody that this is Easter, and I'm wishing everyone a happy Easter and a safe one. You've been watching The Voice of Alabama Politics. You watch us because we watch them.